Hello. This is a monthly favorites video. I am so happy to be doing this because I love watching videos like this and I've never pushed myself to make one. And I already had these like YouTuber lavalier mics because I do documentary work. So I just wanted to put something back into the ecosystem. I'm gonna try to put the chapters down below with the different categories of favorites, but it's gonna be food, outdoor activities, memberships, and secondhand items, things that I've thrifted. So we'll see if I figure out the chapters. We'll see about a lot of this. Okay, let's go. For food, I just have two things. They're both condiments. And the first one is this QP brand deep roasted sesame dressing. I get this at H Mart, which is like a big chain of Asian grocery stores. So they should have that there if you have an H Mart near you, or if there's another Asian grocer that you like near you, it might be worth checking. Or one that you've never been inside that's near you that you want to explore. This could be like a cool first thing to go look for, to have a reason and a focus, and then you can kind of just see what else comes along your way. I use this in the summer months mainly to pull together really yummy rice bowls. So I'll do brown rice. We usually have some around the house, or sometimes I will order just a couple of sides of white rice, like takeout in my neighborhood that I can go pick up as a base, and then cubed like cucumber, avocado. I'll do edamame, like Trader Joe's or whatever, maybe some sliced green onion. And then I will either, while I'm at the H Mart, if I really want it to be a moment, I'll get a chunk of sushi grade tuna or salmon there. At my H Mart, those are really, really excellent quality and pretty good pricing. So I'll get that and just chop it up at home and then put the dressing on. And then if I want to be a little bit more chill about it, like maybe a little more budget conscious, I will just bake some chicken thighs. And that somehow still kind of works. I think because chicken thighs are a little bit buttery in their own way. It's still pretty good. And I actually realized I don't really know the nutritional, like I know sesame oil is pretty rich. You know what, actually, like, I don't think that's any of my business. I think it's really tasty, and I could die tomorrow. So there's that. And then the second food item I have is something called toum, T-O-U-M. That word translates literally to garlic. And this is a Lebanese food, I'm pretty sure. Here's two versions of it. This actually is spelled this way, I think just because of like a Costco like cheeky marketing thing, but it's the same thing. If you can't get an authentic version of this food, then this is actually a pretty decent one to get a dupe of if you can't like support this near where you live, because the ingredient list is super minimal. My understanding is that this is made by just like somehow, I don't understand how it works, condensing 1 million garlic cloves down, and it is this super concentrated, fluffy dip spread substance. If you like garlic, I just really think you're gonna like it. I think you should really consider finding this. There's also a Trader Joe's version, which is called garlic something. I don't know, you can't miss it. I put this on wraps, sandwiches. Sometimes I will like spike my regular hummus with this to make it a little punchier, garlicky, sharper. I have watered it down to make it like a drizzle. Lately I've been putting it on toast and making like jammy eggs to put on top. And then something else I really love doing is getting one of those like in season, really delicious, gnarly tomatoes from the farmer's market, and then doing milk bread, toum, and then tomato. I put bacon on there too. I think because the milk bread tends to be like a little bit sweet and the garlic is so sharp, and the tomato, it's just the tomato gets to be the star. It's really delicious. So I hope you try it. Okay, this section is outdoor activities, which really just means different strategies that I have found for getting myself outside to take more walks. I'm like an indoor recess kind of person, you know, like I hope it rains so I can like sit and eat my goldfish. It's good to be out there, but these are the ways that I get myself going. The first kind of strategy is choosing an album that I want to listen to. I'd like to listen to more albums all the way through in order and consume them that way. So I have 3 albums that I am going to mention that I think are really good for this purpose. I think they're all like 40 or 45 minutes long and could be really enjoyable to like let wash over you as you're walking around. The first one is Cameron Winter's Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal is the name of the album. It's not heavy metal music. This one might not be for everyone. His lyrics are pretty like impressionistic. I think I heard the track Love Takes Time first. That's what drew me into it. So that one's great. And I think if you start from the beginning, it really does like take you somewhere. So that's that one. I also revisited an album recently called Real Midnight by a band called Birds of Chicago. I think this album is like 10 years old or something. I remember, were described in something I read as secular gospel, which is, I feel, pretty true to how I experience them. It's like the stakes are high, life doesn't last, but how sweet is that? And like how much more sweet can we make it while we're here together? It's like very nostalgic, super warm. So that's that one. The third album is Fetch the Bolt Cutters by Fiona Apple. I've been revisiting it. It's the one that came out at the beginning of COVID, if you're not super familiar with her. I don't know what I can say about Fiona Apple. The woman that you are, Fiona. Fiona, if you're here, I know she's here. I know you're here, Fiona. I think I have 6 subscribers. If you're not Fiona Apple, just listen to her. I don't know what to say, but I feel like I need to keep talking about her because she has such total command of her orchestrations, her lyrics, melodies, layering. She has like so much access to herself. She's just fearless. She's both very strong and self-possessed and clear and convicted, but also like so vulnerable and raw. I feel like when I listen to her work, it's like sitting in front of a bonfire, which is like, you know, most of that experience is like this warm pull, but then something will like shift and like pop and you're like scared. I love her. Okay, so those are the albums. Next, I have a couple of quests that I will sometimes attach to a walk. So I saw somebody online do something called a color walk, which I thought was really cool, where you just assign yourself a certain color to kind of let your eyes be drawn to when you're on a walk. You can document them, take pictures. That's kind of nice to look back on. And it's just a nice way to stay super present and mindful on a walk and see your neighborhood a little bit differently than you might normally when you're not looking so actively all around. I think there's also like some science about how it's good to be focusing I don't know why I started saying this. I don't know enough about this science to communicate anything, I guess. To be scanning, to be looking at like short and long range, I think it's good for us instead of just the screens all the time. So that's cool. I also sometimes will tell myself that by the end of a walk, I'm going to do something that requires some bravery. And lately that's been a lot of reaching out to people that are either like people I am not super close to anymore at this moment in life. I think soon I'd like to reach out to a person that I grew up with, who was in my high school class. We weren't friends, but we were friendly, I think. And she started her own business when we were really pretty young still. And I always thought that was so cool that she knew what she wanted to do and had the discipline and like persistence to get it done, and it's still successful now. So I've always wanted to just like tell her that I admire that, especially now I'm in the process of forming a small business, which takes like a million tiny decisions, and like for me so far it has required me to like summon the confidence to overcome a lot of different setbacks and mistakes, and I just want to give her flowers for that. So I think I'm gonna probably do that on a walk sometime coming up. I'll also sometimes let it be sort of a walk to a destination that's a place I've been curious about going and trying, where I don't necessarily have enough of a reason to go there to make a trip out of it, but why not make a trip out of it? There's like a stationery store a couple of neighborhoods over that I did that with recently. I ended up buying like a tiny little, what do they call it, reporter's notebook, like in your back pocket notebook. But I think just the experience of being there and like being in that new stimulation, talking to the owner who was like a real oddball, was cool. It was a good use of time, I thought, in the end. So I'll do that sometimes. And then my partner bought me like a nice Polaroid camera a couple of Christmases ago, and I haven't been using it. I've been really precious with it. You know, there's like a finite amount of film with a Polaroid camera, and I just didn't know what to use it on. There's also like enough settings that I was a little overwhelmed and wanted to like make sure I got them right. But then one night I just went on a walk and I was like, you know what, there's a lot of really nice flowers. I live near a big park, and I was like, I know there's a nighttime setting, let me try to just figure out that setting and take a picture of a flower. And it ended up that I didn't get the settings right. It was like this like blown out, but I kind of ended up, I have no idea what it takes to focus something. But I liked it. It felt like an American Apparel 2010 aesthetic. So I've kept this going. I'm calling them disco flowers, and I want to create something with them, do some like framing project with them. I don't know what it is yet, but that was nice. And then the last outdoor activity favorite, which I guess is the only one that's not about taking a walk, is doing my nails outside. So I do my own nails. It's nothing fancy or like really high quality. I'm decent at it though. You know, I do it once a week. It's usually just this color or like a lighter pink or just like a strength treatment. So I've started to do it at this botanic garden. I have a membership to the botanic garden, which is like pretty close to our home. And I'll do like a Tuesday morning so I can go to the courtyard and set up at a little table without being in anybody's line of sight really, because it's super quiet then. So I'm not like grossing anyone out, having nail polish and stuff. And it's been really cool. I don't know, it's simple, but that kind of ritual that I already have, and then hearing birds and feeling a little breeze has been just really nice. I did do it on a windy day once, which was miserable. It was like one of those moments where you get really mad at inanimate objects, at least I do, and just as bad as you are imagining that it might have been. But otherwise, I've really been enjoying it. Secondhand finds. This is what I know best. It is my meditative space. I've been thrifting since I was like 12, ardently. These are just a few things lately that I've had fun treasure hunting and finding. I'll start by showing you something that I got a few months ago. So I went to an estate sale. This was a unique one because it was in like the Upper West Side, and it was this old school, like iconic New York woman, an artist, and she didn't die. She was just moving across the street and way downsizing. So she was at the estate sale herself, which was cool. She had like stories about everything. And this is one of the only things I got from her that day. It's this like French ceramic little jar. What we use it for is those Maldon flaky salt flakes. We have them in here. So I wanted something for like finishing salt, just for like, you know, like our millennial avocado toast or whatever. And I really like that. We have a lot of warm tones in this apartment in general, but for some reason the kitchen has ended up being like a black and white with some green motif, like very graphic. So I saw this other thing the other day. It's not something I would normally have gravitated toward, I don't think. But it's this like elephant. It was originally designed to be a planter. So I've cleaned it out. I need to like magic eraser this off. It's the price. It was $2.99 and everything was half off. So this is like $1.50. And my thought for this is that we have this set of chopsticks, this like metal chopstick set that I really like, and that it could be like the chopstick holder. So we'll see, because my partner brought up a good point, which is like, do we really want to invite open storage for our chopsticks and then worry about making sure they don't get dusty? That's honestly a pretty fair point. But I don't know, at least if it's like an occasion where we have company over and we're all gonna want to have chopsticks available, then maybe. But we'll see. And then the second thing I wanted to mention, so there's this auction house up in Queens that does auctions of like very high ticket item stuff periodically throughout the month. But then at the end of every month, they do this sort of big sale. It's worth going, I think, at least once. There's a huge range of stuff. There is a lot of still like designer shoes and like really nice art and all that kind of stuff. But then at the other end of the spectrum is this thing that I bought. I got a few of these and I think they gave them all to me for $1.50. And it's gonna be hard for you to see, so I grabbed this in case it helps. It's all of these photo negative sheets of this artist in his studio. I think he's a textile artist, or maybe this is part of a sculpture that he's building. Hard to say, but I think they're really cool, very dynamic images. I want to do something with them, but I'm gonna keep at least one at my desk, my workspace, because I just think it's like very kinetic. It's inspiring to me. I gotta clean it up though and kind of figure it out, but I thought that was cool. And then this book is called Unincorporated Persons in the Late Han Dynasty. It's a book of poems, and I feel like I sample a lot of poetry, and not very much of it sticks and makes me want to seek out more writing from that poet. But I get really excited when that does happen, and that happened here. I learned that he has passed away, which is a bummer. I would really have liked to hear him read his work out loud. I don't even know if he did that when he was alive. I marked 3 poems that I still have been thinking about, in case you like poetry too, and maybe want to Google them or something. This one is called At the Galleria, and the second one is In Praise of Their Divorce, and then the last one is Barton Springs. So, highly recommend. I got this one off of eBay. And then I just have a few little accessories to share in the clothing world. So this first one, everyone else might be smarter than me and realize this, but this is a traditional beret. I thought that they just like balance on people's heads, like perch on their heads. But I found through this purchase that there's like a little beret. It's like a wig would have. And I haven't worn this yet, but I feel like I can now, because the only thing that's been holding me back from wearing berets over the course of my life has been worrying that I had to keep them upright with my posture, which isn't great. Yeah, if I figure this out, nobody is gonna be able to tell me a thing in my beret in the fall. So that's cool. I'll have to like watch a YouTube tutorial about how to put it on. But now you know, if you didn't know, everybody might have known. The next couple of things are both from eBay sellers, and this first one I'm showing now is a silk scarf. There's a woman on eBay. Actually, I don't know if she's a woman. That was interesting bias I just learned about myself. There's a seller on eBay who has this collection of like 6,000 scarves. If you've ever been inclined to have like a nice scarf, kind of for function, to keep you warmer, kind of for fashion, to elevate an outfit for like a nice event, I think it could be worth browsing around on this person's page. If I remember, most of them are around maybe 20 bucks, but they're often silk, they're pretty big, they're beautifully maintained, it's free shipping. So yeah, those are the kinds of indulgences that I like to remember are okay every once in a while. And I think if it's like you have the experience of spending half an hour and then you narrow it down to 5 and then you choose one, and then it's only 20 bucks. I just feel like the experience of that compared to impulse buying one at Madewell, I don't know, is nice. It's nice. And then this is the last thing, clothing-wise, accessory-wise. This is also from eBay. These are vintage boots. I have held on to some cheap-ish ones for a little bit too long, and so I decided it was time. And one thing that I love about shopping on eBay is that you can get a lot of vintage, obviously, but also a lot of dead stock. I knew I wanted boots that were a little more of like the 80s style, so like a straighter shaft, no zipper or buckles or anything. I think this might, I can't tell if it'll become a little slouchy or not. I kind of think no, but I like this sort of 80s silhouette. Not a lot of narrowing for the ankle. But anyway, these are beautiful. They were made in Italy. They're super well made. I'll probably take them to the cobbler at some point, but this was 50 bucks, including shipping. A little bit of an investment to me, but probably better made and cheaper than a lot of things available in retail right now, and more unique and less punishing on the earth. So I'm really excited about starting to style these and wear them. And that is it for Secondhand Favorites. For memberships, I have 3 favorites. The first is Etsy Insider. You pay, I think, like $48, which seems maybe kind of steep for Etsy, which you can shop on for free. But the idea is that you can save on shipping. That's free shipping for a lot of sellers on the site. And for me, it was partially worth it because it was a way to make a commitment to myself that I would try to buy as many holiday gifts and like birthday gifts and special occasion items from artists as I could. And, you know, Etsy is trickier now to navigate because there are a lot of corporatized, sponsored, like drop shipping things on Etsy to kind of wade through. But there are still a lot of independent artists who are selling straight through Etsy, because this is another thing that I'm learning about opening my own small business. It's going to be art related. It's a trade-off, right? You could have your own store and not have to pay Etsy a chunk, but then you also have to generate all of the traffic to get to your own store in order to make any sales or to get people familiar with the work that you're doing, whereas Etsy has this kind of built-in traffic and browsing and marketplace quality. But it's tricky. It can be a little bit of a bully, Etsy. But having said that, it's still such an incredible way if you just consume carefully that you can find some really cool stuff, support some very talented creative people. It's a choice that I feel really good about because it's a way to create some guardrails around my own behavior. And if I know that I'm not willing to do any Amazon gifts, then I have no choice but to like get my act together, plan far enough in advance that I can get things shipped in a reasonable, humane amount of time, etc. So far, so good. Another membership I wanted to mention is a little niche. It's specific to New York. It is one of several really amazing small sort of art house movie theaters. But this one is all documentaries. It's built in an old firehouse, and it's super charming, small, cozy theater to go to. They do a ton of other kinds of programming. They have a huge education arm with classes for professional filmmakers, but also youth classes. It's just like a really good vibe, good community of people. And I think their membership is maybe somewhere between 40 and 60, if I remember right, which pays itself off pretty easily given like the discount on each movie ticket that you get as a member. I love the stuff they do there. It's so nice. And they have really convenient movie times, I find. I can fit it in. When I was in a 9 to 5, I could catch one at 6 o'clock on the way home from work. Big fan. Favorite. It's a favorite. Okay, before I share about this last membership, I just want to give a little bit of context. So I am a very emotional person and also a very responsive person. I know what I think about a thing usually as soon as I experience it. I understand what I'm feeling. I don't usually need much outside feedback about what I want or what I should do, etc. And I like that about myself. I think there's a certain amount of clarity and bravery that I have that I should listen to, and that is part of how I was meant to be in the world. But I've also lived long enough now that I know there are some real pitfalls to that. And specifically, when I feel angry, it's easy for me to be seduced by that anger and to think that like when I'm in that kind of like white hot space, I just need to defer to that because it's undeniable and like do whatever it tells me to do. And lately that has looked like fighting with people online. I know that I'm not alone in this, but I still feel like there's a lot of shame in saying that out loud. And I think especially because I feel like I was drifting into that behavior kind of unconsciously until I noticed like how much energy I was giving it. You see things online, and not only is it so hard to watch the kinds of like aggression and violence and dehumanizing experiences that people are going through, but then to also see people making a point to chime in, claim that, and like make sure that anyone else who might be vulnerable, who sees that, will also feel scared as possible. I understand now that a lot of times those might be bots. I'm too naive to consider that. Even if they are, even if some of them are, it just makes me see red. I know I'm not alone in that, but there was a day when I was like back and forth with somebody in comments, and I would put my phone down, and then like when it dinged, I would get back into it. And at some point I realized that the beginning of that exchange had been like 90 minutes ago. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like really wrapped up in that action, in that feeling, and especially like was participating in the things that I say that I am against, like wanting so badly to now belittle this person and overpower this person and find whatever like most vulnerable or weakest spot and like stab it. That's not what I want to be. So there's that. And then, I think I had gotten to a place where even in spaces where like people agree with you and are interested in more perhaps progressive to radical values, those dynamics can so often feel so stifling because people are really quick to like perform and police values. I think this is especially true online because there's so much stagnant energy online and we're just like blasted with these things, and everyone feels some degree of like hopelessness or overwhelm or whatever. And so I think when there's nothing to be done, it's easy to grasp for some kind of control, and these weird hierarchies form. And I think one thing that can happen with white people in particular is that we can end up feeling like the choices are either to enjoy life and accept being some level of like oblivious or self-serving, self-centered, selfish all the time, or to like be mired in this struggling version of life where you try to be conscientious and you try to be responsible and in solidarity with everyone suffering, but there's this sense that like, how can we actually ever expect any of this to change? And so all of that to say, the last thing I want to talk about is joining the mutual aid group in my neighborhood. I moved to this neighborhood about 1.5 years ago, And I was trying to just get to know the area. I was looking for like volunteer opportunities along with everything else I was interested in. And I learned that there was like a pretty active mutual aid group. This group has full group meetings every other week. It took me a good amount of those to rally to go to one because, well, I'm shy sometimes around new people. It's hard to make new friends as a grown-up. I also wondered if maybe I wasn't politically educated enough or like well-rounded or engaged enough to fit in there. So that was kind of scary. And then there was this hesitation around like, what is the vibe going to be? Is it going to be more of this sort of hierarchies and a lot of circular conversation? How much actually energetically was devoted to something that would feel good versus like how much of it might feel strident and draining. So at the risk of sounding dramatic, it has been one of the most pleasant surprises of my whole life. Being in person with people who live in the neighborhood I live in, truly like from all kinds of backgrounds and ages and professions, some other transplants to the city, some people who have lived there their whole life and sort of have preceded the gentrification that's happening and has happened in the neighborhood. It's been like a really great training ground for getting more politically educated and involved. You know, even once I had gone to a few meetings and was noticing how much better I felt leaving, I felt more human, grounded, just good. I was still like navigating this feeling of, I think I need to be careful though. I need to be careful to not overcommit to this. How much time can I give? How much care can I give? Will I be giving any money to this? I think for a lot of us who come from maybe nonprofit backgrounds or helping professions or backgrounds, we're used to feeling really overwhelmed and burnt out and isolated. And so maybe the coolest thing about this is that over time, I've relaxed that because I am learning that truly, whatever the phrase is, many hands make light work. I was scared of tension and egos or whatever. Instead, what I found was like a group of people who were all the kind of person who would hang around a little bit longer to help put the chairs away. And when it's a whole group of people doing that, then it takes like 90 seconds to put the chairs away. You know, what I feared would weigh my life down and be another thing to commit to is actually making my whole life feel more light, because something in my body understands that this is closer to how I think we were maybe meant to live and to function, how we might live if we got to use our skills and talents for something else besides a job, or even for something else besides personal ambitions. It's what I honestly, my whole life, have so desperately wanted church to feel like. And I just feel so grateful. There's also like within the bigger group, which is comprised of like the whole neighborhood, there's a map that's kind of divvied up into smaller, what's called pod groups. And that's like a hyper local 5 to 10 minute walk from you in any direction is who those people are. And so we're all encouraged to like get to know that group a little more tightly and like make decisions about what do we want this group to be? Like, how do we want to spend our energy, time, resources? That group also only meets every couple weeks, but we have dreamed up a bunch of different ways that we articulate ourselves since I joined. So my pod has done get-togethers, game nights, dinner, and also like some skill sharing meetups. Like if one person has a skill and other people are interested in learning, somebody taught a car thing. I don't know, I don't have a car, I didn't go to that one, but a car thing that's helpful to know how to do yourself, I guess. Somebody is part of the community garden and taught us a few things about urban gardening in this specific area that we live in and what things might react well in this place. We are involved in fundraising, usually parties. Right now we're talking about a soup party to support what's called deep care, which is like when anyone in the community gets kind of like hit with a unexpected hardship, whether that's losing a job or like a medical emergency or an awful landlord-tenant thing happens, a rupture there, just some of the stuff that we are all potentially vulnerable to or could be, or, you know, are just a couple steps on the other side and have a little bit more resource to help protect someone who could be. And so I'm grateful to be making friends this way, with the kind of depth that comes from like brainstorming how to respond to tough questions. And the more time goes on and the more I give myself over to caring about these people who I am really only bound to in geography, but who also want to care about me, the more time we spend figuring out what that looks like, this kind of undefined thing that's different than family, that's different than a job, that's different than a school, and the more trust that gets built there, the more I feel like if and when there's a day and there's a moment where we all need to be out on the street together and responding in the street together, I'm gonna be able to like look in the eyes of these people and like link arms with these people and access like the kind of response that maybe we've practiced, and to know who the phone number to call might be if somebody needs a call to be made. That's the kind of bravery that I want in my life. That's how I want to offer myself in this world. And I'm just, it's a favorite. It's a monthly favorite for sure. I could not recommend joining or starting a mutual aid group wherever you are anymore. It's given me so much more than I'm like giving it. Okay, that was my monthly favorites video. I did it. Thank you for watching it. I've wanted to do this for a few months in a row now, but I think it's just so hard to do the first version of a thing when it's gonna be like kind of bad until you can get better at it. But maybe I'll get better at it now and maybe I'll make more videos. If you have any video ideas, please comment down below. These are new bangs also, so I feel like pretty brave for doing this with brand new bangs because I don't really know my relationship to these bangs yet. And I feel like if they don't look good, then maybe you can just take a moment with me and picture me with cooler bangs. And that feels like a good note to end on. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you. Bye.